Hi, I'm Matt from Tubby Tarot. Welcome back to another 10 Talk Tuesday. Emotional overload in a reading, and I'm not talking about the emotions of the client. I'm talking about your emotions. Where do you store your emotions when you do a reading? Or do you actually know what I'm talking about? Hi, welcome back. When I say storing your emotions when you're doing a reading, what I mean is, do you separate you as Martha from Martha the tarot reader? If you are not doing this, you're going to end up being emotionally overloaded, especially if you are an empath. But what happens if you get to a point with your readings where you find yourself becoming emotionally involved? Okay. I find this happens a lot with people who, A, are starting out doing professional readings, and B, people who don't know anything about time management. And let me explain that. When we are starting out as readers, we try to cram as many readings in as possible because it's money. Let's face it, at the end of the day, I love what I do. I love reading tarot. I love blah, 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 but it's money. Okay. I did a video about not reading for free. Don't do it. Everything's a transaction. So we're doing this for something. Okay. Now, yes, we want to make a lot of money. We want to make as much money as we can. And the way to do that is to book yourself I've known people book themselves like 10 readings in a day. Okay. Even my dentist doesn't do that. So you've got to be very judicious in your bookings. People who are really bad with time management do the same thing. They think, oh, you know what, I've got a half an hour reading, I'll book Mrs. Jones for her 1.5 hour reading straight after that. Give myself 10 minutes between readings. No, you can't do that. How on earth can you do one reading after the next, taking 10 minutes between readings? Even taking half an hour between readings is a very small time gap, okay? And you will become emotionally overloaded eventually. You cannot, as a reader, keep that kind of pace up, okay? What happens when you become emotionally overloaded with your readings? The first sign of this is when you start empathizing with the client or sympathizing with the client a little bit too much. What then happens, and you won't even know this, you will start simply talking to the client as yourself. So I will stop being Matthew the tarot reader and I'll start being Matthew the Matthew. All right, and I'll be like, oh, doll, don't worry about it. You know, a friend of mine had sort of this happened to her, and you know, it's exactly the same. No, you are not a qualified psychiatrist or psychologist unless you are, okay? In which case, you should not be doing this during reading time. You should be doing this in your office. Most of us are not qualified mental health specialists. We have no clue about that. Okay, and I will say this time and time again, do not step over your boundaries. You are not a qualified psychiatrist. Do not act like one. You can cause untold damage. And in many countries and many states, you can actually get into a lot of shit for doing that. Okay, it's completely against the ethics, the American Tarot Association's ethics, to actually pretend to be something you're not. Like a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a doctor, a lawyer. Don't do it. Don't go there. But what happens when you are emotionally overloaded? You've taken on this person's emotions far too much. You will go there. You will start giving advice over and above doing a reading for them. And that's one of the very first signs of emotional overload. Okay? Because what happens is you want to get it out of your system, so you end up giving this advice. The other thing that emotional overload in a reading will, the other way of seeing whether you're emotionally overloaded in a reading is you will start feeling the emotion. If a client is incredibly sad. She's just been divorced. Her children have just gone overseas. She's now suffering from extreme emptiness syndrome, blah, blah. You will feel that. You will be sad and you'll be like, oh my God, I have to help this woman. How can she cope? How is she working? How is she actually like, major alarm bells should be going off for you. You should not be getting into that kind of emotional state with clients. It's unfair on the client and it's unfair on you because it clouds the reading. All right. Now, you know when you're emotionally overloaded. I become emotionally overloaded when I watch movies where the dog dies. Okay. I have this thing in movies. Don't kill the freaking dog, man. Just don't kill the dog. Otherwise, just don't have. And I get like emotionally I get extremely overwrought when I know the dog's going to die because I have this thing. I can't cope. Okay. That is the feeling. I don't. Maybe I'm saying this in the wrong way, but anybody who's experienced that will know that feeling, and that is emotional overload. You're just too emotionally attached, or you're too emotionally involved. Okay. All right. So we know what it is. We know what we should be looking out for. We should know what it feels like. It's like a pressure. It's like a constant need to help, to cry with the person, to empathize on a very high level. Okay. That is your emotional overload. What can you do to stop this from happening? Well, I believe that the very first thing you can do is get some clarity as to what are you. You are a tarot reader. You are not a psychiatrist, counselor, psychologist, doctor, whatever. Understand that, and that's a very important aspect of what we do, is that you need to understand your role. Your role is as a tarot reader, as a card interpreter. That's what you do. The other thing that you can do once you've accepted that and you've understood that, the other thing you need to do is you need to separate Martha, the person, from Martha, the reader. Now that's very difficult to do because there is always going to be that slight overlap, okay? Because that's Martha, the person, creates Martha, the reader. What makes you so good as a reader. But you still have to have that separation. And one of the easiest ways to imagine this, and because we are still in the coronavirus era, imagine when you walk into your reading room, imagine taking off your Martha coat and putting on your Martha the reader coat, your lab coat, as it were. Metaphorically speaking, I don't want you to actually have a lab coat hanging at your door, okay? But just imagine that when you go into that reading, you take off a specific coat or garment and you put on your reading outfit, your reading suit. A very, very interesting way that a friend of mine did this is she actually had a ring that she would only wear when she was doing readings. And it's such a clever idea. You could have a necklace or a ring or even a small touchstone in your pocket, but you would only wear it when you went into your reading room, into your reading space to do a reading, because that would immediately, knowing that you had that reading ring or reading jewelry or reading whatever on, will put you into that frame of mind as a reader and not just as Martha the person. Okay, if there are any Marthas out there, I'm sorry. I'm not picking on you, okay? It's a beautiful name. But that's a really clever way of doing this. And please, people, I think you have to do this, because if you don't separate yourself out, you are going to end up being emotionally overloaded. Stop booking 20 people a day or 10 people a day. Book 3 people a day maximum. Yes, your profits are going to drop a little bit, but you know what? Your peace of mind and your emotional well-being is far greater than those extra couple of bucks. Don't push yourself too hard. It's going to come back and bite you on the arse. And on that bum note, I'm Matt from Tubby Tarot. I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and I will see you on the flip side.